Quazi here. In today's video, I want to speak to you about something very, very important. And this is the difference between belief and faith. See, a lot of the times people get hung up on trying to overcome their limiting beliefs. Like, I have this belief that's limiting me, that's keeping me stuck here. While that's all good and great, it's not your beliefs that are limiting. It's your faith that is limiting, because a belief won't help you go from where you are to where you want to get to. Because what is the fundamental nature of a belief? Belief focuses on what has already happened, what's already proven, kind of like science. It operates within the confines of reality, a reality that is already manifest. But if you want to manifest a sector of reality that hasn't yet been manifest, you need to operate on something much more powerful. Something that, if obtained in the size of a mustard seed, can move mountains. Okay, so in today's video, I want to share with you how to cultivate true faith, but use it in such a way that it allows you to create the life that you want, to manifest that unmanifest sector of reality and literally create the reality of your choosing. So with that, let's get started. Let's form a working definition for belief and faith. And before I even get to that, if I sound weird, guys, it's because I'm recovering from a flu or something and my voice is shot from all the coughing. So you're gonna have to forgive me for that. But let's start with belief and then faith. So belief is trust in the known. Oh dear, that looks bad. In known. Right? Faith is trust in the unknown. What's the common word between both of them? It's the word trust, right? Belief is trust in what I already know. I believe in whatever scientific theorem proves that I can be on this earth and evolution or gravity, because I've studied it, I've seen the theorems, I'm experiencing it, so I believe it, right? I believe in something because it's happened in the past. I believe that if I go to school and I get a degree, I graduate, there's a high likelihood I'll get a job. I believe that because I've seen other people do it. You know, there is a standard model of reality. That's the standard model of reality that I've grown accustomed to. Faith, on the other hand, is trust in the unknown. Faith is the thing that makes unmanifest sectors of reality actually manifest. I want you to think about this for a second. Some of the greatest things that you've accomplished in your life, that have lit your heart on fire, have come from this place of faith. It's come from this unknown, right? So you just haven't known, you didn't know for sure if the outcome was going to happen, the thing that you wanted, but you've put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, something unfamiliar that you've never done before, and you just somehow had trust in this unknown. Maybe you had trust in God or a higher power, but you still had trust. Your mind got out of the way and you had access to your heart. That's another important distinction between belief and faith. Belief operates through mind, and faith operates through heart. You could call that the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind, but the one thing is clear when we talk about mind, we're talking about that conscious willpower faculty that we all possess. You know, I was speaking to one of my clients. He came in, he was like, what's really the difference between belief and faith? You know, shouldn't I cultivate more belief? Well, you can, if you would like to experience a life you've already experienced, right? If you operate on belief, you're going to keep experiencing what's known. For most people, they keep going through this Groundhog Day. They keep experiencing the same life over and over again because they stay in the comfortable. They've never taken a leap of faith to doing something uncomfortable, or the last time they have, you know, was probably when they were younger, in their 20s or maybe even 30s, or when life kind of forces you to get out of your comfort zone, right? And so that's what, you know, there's tons of studies that show, like, when people retire, they just drop dead. They don't have a purpose. What gives you purpose in your life? Having uncertainty, right? We have a need for certainty. We also have a need for uncertainty. For most people, they just wait for this uncertainty to come in the form of a challenge, in the form of something crazy happening that makes them move to a completely new country or a different continent even, and then they begin a new life. But the other majority of people who never get to experience this comfort zone expansion, typically what happens to them is they deteriorate, they stagnate, they keep experiencing the same reality, waking up, going to the same job, feeling burnt out, and then coming home and then, engaging in compulsive behaviors to drown out their suppressed feelings, right? To escape their suppressed feelings. That's typically what happens. So, what's the way out of that? What's the way out that will allow you to experience a brand new reality? For a lot of you watching this, you probably have a desire to creating a life that is different to what you're experiencing now. You're probably going through a big transition period in your life, right? And as a result, you're facing a lot of obstacles and challenges. And you know that there's a delay period before your dreams come to life. But typically what happens during this delay period is a lot of doubts enter, okay? A lot of fears, a lot of doubts enter. What if I can't do this? What if it doesn't work out? Well, then, I have a lot of things to lose. My family's on the line. Like, I have to feed my family. I have to make sure everything is taken care of. Make sure, right? This attachment. There is this attachment. There is this need. You come from this place of need. And because of that, you keep falling back into this lower version of yourself, your old self or your 1.0 self, your survival self. The way to get to your higher self isn't by trying to grasp at straws and trying to get yourself to believe in something there is no evidence of, because that's a futile battle. You could tell yourself all you want, like, oh, it's going to work out, it's going to work out, but you won't believe it. Why? Because there isn't evidence of it. Well, to give you an example of this, Roger Bannister was the first person to ever break the 4-minute mile barrier, right? Before that, no one was able to do that. Once he did it, he set the standard, and people's worldview changed. After he broke the 4-minute mile, high schoolers started to break 4-minute miles, right? Up until then, no one thought it was possible at all. They thought it was just a human limit, that no one can run a 4-minute mile. How did he do it? He didn't have belief to fall back on because he never saw anyone else do it. Roger Bannister operated on faith. He had this trust in the unknown and the unseen. So if you're trying to create a reality right now, that is completely different from what you're experiencing, and you're finding all of these setbacks and all these challenges, what you need to have is a trust in the unknown. Some of the greatest entrepreneurs in the world, some of the most successful people in the world, what do they have? It's this trust in the unknown and the unseen. In fact, they have this deep trust in their ability to figure it out, no matter what situation they're put in. Now, I'm not saying belief isn't important. Belief is important, only as important as you wanting to maintain your current state of reality. So for example, if you want to grow your business to a certain level, let's say you want to, get to 7 figures. Well, getting to 7 figures first would be an act of faith. But then maintaining 7 figures as your new normal, your new baseline reality, that would take belief. AKA, hey, I've done it once. I have the reference experience of knowing what it's like. Therefore, I can do it again. That is what belief does. Belief allows you to stay consistent. Faith allows you to expand and grow. And faith is the first thing that happens before belief follows. When you were a kid and you walked for the first time, you didn't know if you could walk. You just had faith. You just trusted mommy and daddy that you would somehow be able to walk, that your feet, your legs, your body would work in propelling you forward. You had that trust. And even when you fell, you still had that trust. Yes, maybe you've seen them walking, but you didn't know that you could do it because you've never experienced it. But once you did it, now you have belief. Now you have that reference experience that you've done it, right? So both are important. I'm not saying one is more important than the other, because the main thing we're looking to happen is a heart and mind coherence. The way I want you to think about this is the mind is like a channel. The heart is an unbridled source of power. So the heart, this unbridled source of power, if it's not directed anywhere, it'll go a million different directions, a million different inches in a million different directions. What the mind does is it focuses it so it goes a million inches in one direction, right? It creates focus, kind of like a laser beam. That's what the mind allows you to do. The mind works on discrimination. It looks at black or white. It's looking to discriminate the intellect. It's like a sharp knife, and it cuts through everything. Okay? But heart is the source of power. But this power always needs to be redirected. It needs to be directed to one particular direction. So, in the case of you materializing an unmanifest sector of reality, let's say you're trying to start up your own business, you're trying to quit your job, or maybe you're even trying to get a promotion or just move to a different job or a better location, or even improve your marriage and your relationship, right? Maybe you're trying to operate from a new paradigm of reality that you've never experienced before, and it's uncomfortable. Well, what are you doing when it's uncomfortable? Are you running away from the discomfort, or are you easing into it? Are you sitting into that feeling of tension? Because what most people do is when they're losing, when they're failing, they keep fighting it. They keep blaming someone else. This is a form of escape. When you blame someone else for your problems, you're escaping the problem. When you try to drown yourself in compulsive behaviors like excessive eating or scrolling, whatever it may be, that's taking you away from confronting that feeling of discomfort. That too is an escape. And whatever you escape will eventually get suppressed and then repressed, and it will start to show up in psychosomatic ways in your life. I have tons of clients who feel really, really burnt out because they've been operating from this paradigm of fighting against this other part of themselves, right? They've achieved successes in their lives, but what they're seeing is they can't get to that next level because the wall that they've been pushing has just gotten too strong, right? They've just been fighting for way too long. And because of that, they're starting to have these health problems show up, right? They feel fatigued all the time. They have all of these illnesses. They get sick very, very often. It's because they're fighting against an invisible part of themselves. Imagine carrying a weight around that you don't need to carry at all. But because you've been conditioned a very particular way in your childhood and throughout your whole life, you've never felt good enough. And so you accumulate successes to show to yourself that, hey, no, I'm good enough. See, I'm good enough, but it's never enough. You're trying to fill up a void, but the void just keeps getting bigger and bigger, right? The more you try to fill it up, the more you try to show yourself that you are good enough, that you are worthy, the worse it gets. It's like a black hole that just keeps feeding into it. But, you didn't achieve that. You didn't achieve this. When will it be enough for you? When will you give yourself the love that you're looking for from others? Instead of looking for validation from others, what's really needed for you right now is validation from yourself. That's self-love. Telling yourself repeatedly, showing yourself that you indeed are good enough, that you don't need to operate from this paradigm. Okay? And that's, when some of the greatest things happen. That's when you have success with fulfillment. Because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Okay? So now I want to share with you how to cultivate more faith. So you start to see those miracles happen more in your life. So you start to see that forward movement happen and not need your mind to explain how it's going to happen and not be so reliant. If you're someone who's overly analytical and logical, you like to see clear pathways, business systems, well, chances are this is going to make it so that you're not so heavily reliant on that left brain trying to look for proof and evidence like, oh no, this is the strategy, this is what will work. Because I'm sure you've tried tons of different strategies. The reason you're watching this video right now is probably because you're looking for an edge. You're looking for something that you've never conceived before. Because if you knew what the invisible barrier was, you'd be able to solve the problem, right? The reason that you haven't found it, the problem, that's the reason you're experiencing what you're experiencing. You're too in the picture to be able to see the frame. So now let's talk about how to cultivate more faith in your life. Before I get to that, I wanted to let you know that you can access our exclusive email list. All you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/list. And upon joining, you're going to get access to our 5-video series known as the Identity Shifting Bootcamp. Viewers have literally just consumed that free content and have gotten amazing results out of that. All you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/list and you'll be able to access the Identity Shifting Bootcamp, which will show you how to fundamentally shift your identity so you can experience a brand new reality, the reality you would like to experience. Now, this is going to be something that'll take you a little bit of time to develop because chances are if you're overly analytical, kind of like I was, and I still am a little bit, it's, having this trust in the unknown is very scary. It's kind of like you're letting go right? And you're trusting God. In a way, you're trusting God to deliver you to your goals. You're taking the flow of life. So if you've been overly logical, overly left-brained, even if you've been right-brained, most times people who believe they're more in faith and surrender, they're actually not. They're more mind-oriented. Reason being, if you are capable of doubt, well, then you don't have faith. Where there is faith, there is no room for doubt. It's just simple. Where there is faith, when there is a knowingness, an inner knowingness, there is no room for doubt. Because what does belief say? Belief says, I believe in something, means I don't know. I don't know if this is true or not. I just believe it. Because it's just easier to believe something, right? It's just a lazier way to accept an idea. So when you have belief in something, you're basically saying to yourself, I don't know. When you know, it'll be beyond words. Your knowingness will be beyond words. It'll be beyond intellect. So what does faith feel like? Faith feels stupid. Faith feels stupid. It feels freeing. It feels like a sigh of relief. Imagine walking through life feeling like a walking sigh of relief, like, I have nothing to worry about. You cast the burden to God. You let God solve all your problems instead of trying to insist on solving the problems yourself, instead of trying to play God in your life. When you operate from faith, you begin to give up your responsibilities to a higher power. You walk one with God, okay? When you operate on belief, you become the God of your own world and you insist on trying to control every single outcome. That used to be my old paradigm. And again, like I said, there's nothing wrong with belief, but belief is supposed to be an outcome. It's a second order consequence. It's a consequence of having faith, okay? But at every single level, your beliefs will betray you. Why? Because once you get up to a certain level in your personal development journey, in your career, in your business, if you want to transcend, your old beliefs will limit you. What's gotten you here is not what's going to get you there. A new paradigm must exist. A new paradigm must be formed. So faith is what brings about everything. Okay? So what does true faith feel like? It feels like a sigh of relief. It feels like you're just casting all of your burdens and worries for God to solve. Okay? What's the first way of doing this, of cultivating more faith? It's living in the unknown. One of my oldest mentors used to tell me that when you live your life, every single day should feel like you're living in a dark room. And you're so conscious, you're figuring it out. It's uncharted terrain. And every single day is a brand new adventure. You don't know what's going to happen today, and you're not supposed to know. And the less you know, intellectually know, the better. What you do know, experientially, is that everything will be okay, that you'll be taken care of, and what's meant to happen will happen. Okay? So living more in the unknown, expanding your comfort zone. Because all of the goals and everything that you want in your life, it lies outside of the zone of your comfort. So if this is you currently, if this is you in this small little circle, 1.0, this would be you 2.0. Your goals and dreams all lie outside of this small circle, in the bigger circle. But for a lot of you, it's very, very difficult to take the leap. You can't intellectually get your way from here to here. You cannot. You can't ration your way, reason your way from here to here. It needs to be a leap of faith. When spiritual seekers make the greatest steps toward growth and enlightenment, it's never from reasoning in the mind. It's when you go beyond mind and you just take the leap. You jump. You say, fuck it. Most of our clients, when they choose to work with us, they take a leap of faith. And that's who gets the best results. Like our client Eldred, he joined us at 65. He was feeling lost with his life, what direction to take next. He had a very strained relationship with his wife too, because for 65, for like the decades that they were married, he felt that she was, ungrateful and challenging him too much. And he felt resentful. He felt resentful because he's a doctor, he's very, very accomplished, and he's given her all of these things, but she could feel in his energy that he wasn't living his best life and he wasn't living his potential. Women can feel that. Women can feel when their man isn't living their best potential because they're intuitive, right? And so for that, he was like, I went through med school and I gave you this house and I did all these things. You know, you still like belittle me, make me feel small, blah, blah, like make me feel like I'm not good enough. Obviously she did it in a very supportive way, but you know, after he joined us, he started to like, when he got this deep clarity intellectually and emotionally on his purpose, he became a completely different person. He took scuba diving. He had this terrible fear of the water, took scuba diving, and then he took a trip to Egypt. He's never taken a trip, you know, like that far before. His wife was shocked. It was like, oh my God, who is this? My husband, he's a different man, right? And so after that, he came back and now he's transitioning his business from in-person facilities to more online. He's a longevity doctor and he's damn good at what he does. He looks younger than I do at 65. I'm not even joking. But he was able to do this how? Through faith, through having faith, through trusting the unknown, through stepping more into the unknown, through taking a leap. He didn't know what would happen. He didn't know what would happen if he started to go this route. You know, he didn't know what would happen if he did something uncomfortable. He didn't know if it would make a difference in his life, but it did. He just followed that intuition. So living in faith means following your intuition. You know, it's not over-rationalizing everything. It's feel, act. Feel, act. The higher self visits you very, very temporarily until the lower self comes in and interrupts and it tries to rationalize. The mind comes in and says, oh no, this won't work. This is stupid. And then the heart gets stuffed in a box again and it goes suppressed and repressed. If you're living from full intuition, do you know what would happen to your life? It would be chaotic, but the growth would be insane. Like just 6 months living from pure intuition, your life would never be the same. As opposed to living in logic all the time. You would feel like a kid again, you know? Like all this adulting, all the responsibilities you have that you're holding on to. Oh, I have to provide for my family and my kids. Well, that's great. Yes, economically, it's also uncertain. You would never want to take a risk that would wipe you out. But at the same time, it's like, what are little ways in which you can expand your comfort zone? What are little ways in which you can live in the unknown? I want you to make a list. Every single day, what's one way I can live in the unknown today? What is something I can do that is completely unfamiliar to me? Even if it's as little as brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand. Even if it's as little as, you know, in the middle of the day, taking a break and going somewhere you never went before. Live in the unknown. That is where God is. In the unknown, in the darkness, not in the light. People think God is in the light. It's in the comfortable. No, it's not. That's where death is. Think about it. When are you the most comfortable? When you're dead. You're like a zombie. You're brain dead. You're shoving yourself with food. You're, you know, scrolling. You're doing all the compulsive, pleasurable activities. But when you're actually in pain is when you're the most awake. Life, the process of life is pain. The Buddha said it himself. Life is suffering. It doesn't have to be suffering, but it is painful. But there is beauty in this pain because it leads you to growing it, allows you to find out more and more about yourself. Okay? What's the second way to cultivating more faith? This is something I like to call belief projection. So, we're actually going to be using belief to get to faith. Why? Because in order to get to pure faith, we need to disarm the thinking mind. Only when you disarm the thinking mind can faith be accessed, the power of your heart can be accessed. So with belief projection, essentially what we're trying to do is the following. We're trying to take past reference experiences and project them to the future that we want to create. For example, if I am doubting my ability to start a business, a new business that I'm wanting to start, and I'm doubting in my leadership abilities, you know, I'm doubting in my ability to take this to the next level and have the impact that I want to have, I want to look at reference experiences from my past that give me proof that I am capable, that I'm more than capable, right? So what you're going to do is list down 3 to 5 instances from the past. 3 to 5 instances of success from the past that give evidence that you will be successful in this next endeavor. So in my particular example, I can draw from an immense amount of reference experience now, right? I've been able to quit my job and start this successful business, grow to 7 figures. Well, now I pretty much believe I can do anything, if I go back to that. But when I was quitting my job to start my business, this wasn't the case. I didn't have a lot of reference experience, but I had tiny amounts here and there. I was successful in school. I put my mind to it and I became successful in it. Well, then I reasoned, if I put my mind to this, I would be successful. Now, this doesn't mean I eliminated all doubt. It doesn't. There was still doubt. I was still doubting myself every single day. Like, hey, is this even gonna work? Is this stupid? I'm making YouTube videos online. No one does this. Who's gonna wanna work with a 20-something-year-old and get life coaching from 20-something-year-old? It's not gonna happen. But it did. And why it happened was because of this. Me expanding my comfort zone, living in the unknown, and having faith, having that trust. Because without trust, nothing happens. Without trust, life doesn't operate. In every single thing that happens in life, every single process in life, there is trust. You want to take a drive, go from point A to point B, or you have to trust that your legs are going to work. You have to trust that your car is going to work. It's not going to explode when you start it up, right? So you just have this trust, this blind trust that today it's going to work. Well, a lot of the times you implement a little bit of belief, like, hey, my legs worked yesterday, why wouldn't it work today? So the mind needs proof in order to disarm itself. And that's the only way you're going to get access to the heart. So thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. Hey, would you do me a favor and leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of this? I speak to a camera, so I would love to hear your feedback if this was helpful, what your biggest takeaway was. You'll see me replying to your comments, asking you what stood out to you the most. So just let me know in the comments. I'll be reading through every single one of them and I'll be responding personally. If you wanted to work one-on-one with me, if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, or a professional, and you really want to take things to the next level, you find that you've hit this invisible block. That's what we specialize in. If you'd like to work one-on-one with me in my personal mentorship, all you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/apply to schedule your free one-on-one consultation call. My calendar fills up fast, so just go ahead and fill up the application and secure your consultation now. If you qualify, we'll be able to speak and I'll be able to really identify a game plan for you to take things to the next level, and we can discuss what it looks like to work closer together. So you can either go to the pinned comments or go to realitycreator.com/apply. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. Thanks.